plan application. Right? Section 14, going forward, Section 14 then covers post-construction, the right-hand side of what you see on the screen. So the building is already built. Before we go any further, as I said, it's going to be an open discussion. I hope you all are making notes. Because I'm going to hand this mic over to you all just now. So, Section 14 of the Act. Section 14 stipulates what the BCO, I'm going to change my terminology here, what the local authority can ask before giving you an occupation certificate. Why did I change the terminology? We all believe, and those that do have completion certificates, you're a developer, you get many, right? Who comes and does an inspection and who signs off? The building inspector. You see, Section 14 says that the local authority must give you an occupation certificate. Again, the building inspector is mandated to inspect and do a recommendation. So what does Section 14(1) say? Your building must comply with the plans. 2, COCs from the electrical or the electrician. You must be okay, I can't remember it offhand now, but it specifies the qualifications of your electrical contractor. 14(2)(a), COCs from appointed competent persons for A, structural, B, fire protection system, and C, fire installation system. Those are the 3 things that building inspector is supposed to ask for under that Act, if it's applicable. Obviously on an H4, for example, in a house, you don't normally have a competent fire engineer, right? Section or the regulation A19 goes a little bit further, or reinforces 2A. Basically, A19 says that any appointed competent person, so you appointed a structural engineer, or you appointed some competent person, whether it was a hydraulic engineer for your pipe work, whether it was a energy efficiency competent person for your whatever. Whoever you appointed must give you a certificate. And that certificate should then go to the BCO. Okay? Section A18. All it asks is that the plumber be a trained plumber in relation or in terms of government notice R1875 of 31st of the 8th month 1979. And SANS 10400 Form 4 goes further to say COC for energy efficiency. So it's just one reinforcing the other. So at the end of the day, legally roughly 6 items or less that the BCO can ask for. Currently they have 20 items they ask for, roughly. Obviously the more competent persons you appoint, the more COCs you need. So some of the additional things that the Tipeni BCO is asking for. Certificate from the architect for roof insulation. 2, glazing certificate from Saga. 3, surveyor's certificate for positioning of the building even after the beacon certificate was provided. ITC certificate. Separate engineering certification for different structural elements. Water department certificate in terms of a bylaw. Just remember, it's in terms of a bylaw, it's not in terms of NPR. Plumber to be registered with Itiqueni. We'll come back to point 6 just now. These Yeah, ant poison also, it's not there, but I didn't mention ant poison because I overlooked the ant poison certificate. I tell you why. There is no way for the building inspector to physically see ant poison. So it's only fair that that certificate be handed over. Okay? Thanks, Michael, for that. These additional items are not required by law. The result of those requests, the owner cannot occupy the building. The owner sometimes illegally occupies a presumably compliant building. I mean, the building inspector is supposed to inspect for glazing installation if it's under 10 meters tall. But so it's compliant because you can physically see it's compliant, but the building inspector does not want to give you a certificate because he wants a SAGA certificate. Okay? The banks would hold the final draw on building loans. Loss of income. Stagnation of the building development sector. And obviously it's a downward spiraling effect from the guy that's mixing the daga to the hardware shop, to the employee of the hardware shop. It affects our GDP of the country. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay. So I'm just going to quickly go through those 7 points and tell you what the problems are with those 7 points. I'm going to be 5 minutes more and then I'm handing over the mic to you all. Certificate from architect for roof installation. In most cases, this is a deemed to satisfy. Deemed to satisfy, the building inspector must inspect. And I'm going to take a minute more here. What we have asked, we sit on the DTI committee for rewriting of the National Building Regulations. We have requested the DTI actually include in the law that the architectural professional has to now give a completion certificate to protect the client. When it is written in, yes, it won't be just roof installation, you have to do an overall certification for the product at the end of the day. Okay. Glazing certificate from SAGA. People, what is SAGA? Who knows what SAGA is? No one. It's a voluntary association. It's like the building inspector coming to Cybid and saying, or you the developer, going to you the developer and say, can you get me a Cybid certificate please for this building? Does that even make sense? For most cases, buildings under 10 meters tall, almost every house, unless it's a high-rise building, it is a deemed to satisfy rule. It's been approved you as a professional put it on the plan. Minimum glass thickness, whether it's safety glass or not. The building inspector must inspect that. So I had a building inspector come up to me and say, oh no, but I can't because how do I inspect it? Every building inspector has this. Who knows what this is? Yes, thank you. Every building inspector has been handed this. This tells you how thick the glass is. You hold it against the glass and it tells you how thick the glass is. If it's safety glass, it's mandated by law that the glass must be marked. Number 1, number 2, or number 3, with the manufacturer's name on it. It's visible, you must be able to see it. The law asks for that. The building inspector walks up to the glass, it's supposed to be safety glass. Oh, it's marked number 1. Which is thin against, oh, it is that thickness. That's what the plan says. SAGA is not mentioned in the NBR, and I'm not putting SAGA down, they do good work. Yes. But Now it almost seems like could be some collusion going on here, because the building inspector doesn't want to do his work and he's handing it over to someone that you have to pay. You have to pay 2,000 or 3,000 rand for the man to come spend 5 minutes in your house to tell you it's fine. That's a building inspector's job. Surveyor certificate for possession of the building even after the beacon certificate was provided. The law, the National Building Regulations, A11, specifies that if in doubt, if the local authority is in doubt that the beacons are in the wrong place or are suspect, the owner must then employ a surveyor to ensure that and give you a certificate. That's all it talks about, the corner beacons. The position of the building is the duty of the building inspector. He must pull out his tape measure. Because before you start building, one of the conditions before you start building is that you need to point out to the building inspector where the pegs are. So he knows where the pegs are. He must pull out his tape measure and measure. So on a low-cost house, where the owner built his house for 30,000 rand, he must go pay a surveyor 5,000 rand to come ensure that the house is in the correct position. He must then pay Saga another 2,000 rand to come and say that his glazing is right. I mean, just the certificate is going to cost him 20 or 30% of the cost of his house. So you'll see the problem here. It is too onerous and it's mandated work or scope of work for the building inspector. ITC certificate. I had a colleague, because I'm in cyber, right? People ask me questions. I had a colleague come and ask me, I've got this concrete roof slab at home and the building inspector is asking me for an ITC certificate. What is an ITC certificate? Who knows what an ITC certificate here is? Anyone? Institute of Timber Construction. Concrete roof slab, people. Concrete roof slab. How is ITC even involved in a concrete roof slab? I don't know. The next issue is the Institute of Timber Construction. Again, yes, they do good work. They're not mandated in law. They are a voluntary association. And as I used the example earlier on, it's like the building inspector coming and saying, give me a SIDE certificate, give me a SIBIT certificate, or KZNIA certificate. It's a voluntary association. You appoint a professional, not a voluntary association. And therefore the appointed person gives you the certificate, not a voluntary association. And the institute is not mentioned in law again. Separate engineering certificate for different structural elements. I'm sure you're familiar with Form 4, SANS 10400A Form 4. It talks about a structural system. It doesn't talk about a certificate for the roof structure, a certificate for the wall, a certificate for the foundation, and a certificate for the columns and your balconies. No, it's a structural system. The whole thing is looked at holistically. Part A also tells you the same thing. Okay? So again, I've had engineers come to me and say, I've already signed this. It's the whole structural system. Don't come and ask me for the certificate for the walls. It's a structural system. I've signed it. But the building inspector wants that. Water department certificate in terms of a bylaw. As quoted earlier on, there is no bylaw. In terms of the NBR, it can be in terms of Department of Forestry and Water Affairs. That's what that bylaw is for. In terms of the National Building Regulations, in terms of approving a plan and giving you an occupation certificate, that bylaw does not exist. Okay? And lastly, permit to be registered with Itumeleng. Before I even go further with this, there's a major problem here. Collusion, ring fencing. Ring fencing of work. So someone who's done most of his work in Belito, you employ him to come and do plumbing work at your house. Sorry, he cannot do the work. That's what the bylaw says. That's the first thing. The second thing is, who mandates, or is the local authority mandated by SAQA as a qualifications authority? Because that's what they do. They are qualifying the plumber. And for you to qualify something or someone, you need accreditation from SAQA to do that. We've had problems where every plumber in the city was deregistered from the city, and suddenly for 8 months no one could get a occupation certificate. And then there's only like a list of 60 plumbers in the whole of Durban that can actually give you a certificate. That means you can only employ those 60 people. You take a guy who lives just outside Cato Ridge, who's a plumber, and you want him to do the plumbing in your house because you don't trust the plumbers here in Durban for whatever reason. You cannot do that. But the building inspector, who's not mandated to control this, insists on it. Okay. I've just put up the slide here, the duties and powers of the DCO. He is to make recommendations to the local authority in question regarding plan, specification, documentation, and information submitted to such local authority. He does not approve your plans. He does not give you an occupation certificate. All he does is make a recommendation. 2 or B, ensure that any instruction given, so he ensures, he is a peace officer, you know, you have to do this because that's what your approval was. He needs to enforce that. C, and I highlighted C. Inspect the erection of the building and any activities or matters connected therewith, in respect of which approval referred to in section 4.1 was granted. Whatever conditions appear in 4.1 in your approval, that's what you must inspect. Not come and ask me for a SAGA certificate. Or the word, or I should have actually highlighted this word, inspect. And that's why I said it out quite loud. He can't ask for an ITC certificate. He can't ask for a roof installation certificate. It is his duty. The law says it's his duty to do that. And lastly, to report to the local authority in question regarding non-compliance. That's his powers and duties.